that's up to 2 feet, right? And then when you get in the purples, you're up into the 2.5 to 3 feet of rain,
Yeah.
And then I was just looking to see because I was around for Hurricane Gilbert, but I don't remember the details. But Hurricane Gilbert was moving along, and Hurricane Gilbert was devastating in Jamaica. Hurricane Gilbert went, I don't know, something like that across the island. So Kingston is over in here, and Montego Bay is up in here, right? That's up that on that part of the island. So but obviously there are towns and all over the island. But look at this purple, which probably is caused by when the storm is over here in the what did I put an L there? But let's say the storm center is over there, and the circulation is like this, feeding moisture up in there when it's at its strongest in that Monday, Tuesday timeframe. If it misses to the south, so it's feeding moisture, and no doubt there's something about the way the mountains are there that is catching it or something. But over in here, look at these purples on the eastern end of the island. I mean, this is like feet and feet of rain because of the relentlessness of this. I mean, it's really hard to imagine. There's no place that can deal with that. We can't deal with that in this country.
Anywhere, yeah. And it's hard for people to visualize what that kind of rainfall is going to do in their community because you probably haven't experienced it. So places will flood that have not flooded before. You'll see water in places. You'll see landslides, road closures like we talked about. So it's going to be impactful in just about every imaginable way possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in Kingston, there's some protection there of the harbor, but it really depends on the way direction the wind is going. I mean, the water still can get in there, and the river and that comes down through there and so forth. So the water is going to be coming down that river, and it's going to be trying to go back up that river, and it's a bad situation. Generally, fairly elevated along the coast, but there's elevated and then there's elevated, depending on where the water is coming from. Right? There is nothing good here. All right. What else you got, Jordan? Is there anything else we can add? I don't know what else to add for the folks in Jamaica. I mean, you feel like, because here we are Thursday. Tomorrow is the really preparation day. Saturday, this is going to begin, especially probably later in the day on Saturday. And obviously beginning from east to west across the island. I don't know what else we can do for them.
Other than the fact that it's going to last all weekend and into early next week, and it's going to be a long duration event like most people there are probably not experienced. And it's going to be very important to, I would say if you live in a place where it typically floods, you would probably want to think about going someplace where it's safer. But again, listen to the local officials there. The emergency management, the government officials, the Met Service, they'll have that sort of localized information for your particular community.
Yeah, this situation is potentially so extreme that this doesn't feel like something that people would say, oh, this isn't going to be that bad, right? Because there's no evidence at all that this is going to be anything but really bad, like really bad to spectacularly catastrophic. Right? you know, somewhere in that range, not in the maybe not too bad to pretty bad range. This is in the top end of the range based on everything that we know right now. So hopefully that will get lots of people. Jordan says that nearly half of the folks watching on TikTok are watching from Jamaica. So, yeah, we're thinking about you guys. I wish there was something more we could do. I mean, this is full on preparation. I mean, there are no reservations, no hoping that it's not going to happen. If you're in an area that's ever flooded in the history of the world, then you need to not be there.
I will talk about, what we are doing here, what we do for a storm like this. We've got the hurricane on our aircraft flying into the storm, both the Air Force reserves and NOAA, collecting as much data as we can to help improve the forecast. And we know that aircraft data really does make a difference in the models and in our forecast and our assessment of a storm. And it's really valuable to have the aircraft in the storm when a storm's rapidly strengthening, like we think Melissa's going to do over the next 2 or 3 days. So we're going to keep the aircraft in there as much as possible, collecting as much other data across the area as we can, and constant coordination with the meteorological service there to make sure we've got that information exchange between us and them is really solid.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we're going to have good information, but in Jamaica, just be aware that there may come a time when you're not going to be informed and you're going to be taking care of yourself. If you lose cell service, you lose internet, you lose power, communications, and so forth. So, Mike, I know we're up against your time, so I don't want to keep you. If you got to run, or whether you can take another question or two, it's up to you.
I can do one or two more.
Okay. Yep. All right, Jordan.
Hi, so our last question here is I can relate to the NHC a little bit. The worst is still expected for the Dominican Republic, or is it no longer in danger? You may recall the cone kind of was a little bit more to the north, now it's more to the west. What about the Dominican Republic? Are they still in danger?
All right, Mike.
Yeah, I think from the perspective of the Dominican Republic, there's not much of a wind threat there. The core of this storm is going to continue to move away, but from a rainfall perspective, southern parts of the Dominican Republic still expected to see 6 to 12 inches of rain through Sunday, possibly more beyond that. And that's still the type of rainfall, as Brian showed earlier, could result in life-threatening flash flooding and landslides. So the rainfall threat is still there for those areas, regardless of what the cone says, regardless of exactly where the center is going to move. Again, this storm is not going to move a lot between now and even over the weekend and into early next week. So that fetch of moisture coming up from the south towards the southern coast, and particularly the Dominican Republic, is going to continue for several days. Other parts of the island looking at still some impacts, but generally less rainfall as you go to the north side of the island, more on the order of 2 to 4 inches rather than 6 to 12, at least through the weekend.
Yeah, so Santo Domingo is right here. So the mountains are to the north. So the moisture comes in here, hits those mountains, then it all has to run down. And of course, right through the center of Santo Domingo is the river there. And although Santo Domingo is well elevated, in general, the water coming out of the mountains is coming down. So you got to go somewhere. So a threat of that. All right, Jordan, one more for Mike.
Yeah, last one for Mike here. It's one last. Do you still feel that this is possible that this could turn into a Category 5?
So I've been saying it's possible, right?
Anything's possible. And I'll say once you get up into Category 4, 115, 120, 125 knots, the ability to predict fluctuations in intensity at that range of storm is limited. You can have eyewall replacement cycles. You can have very, very quick changes in intensity. And so when we get up to that range, we'll often say fluctuations in intensity are going to happen. And those can be 10 or 15, 20 miles per hour either direction on the scale of just a few hours. So is it possible? Sure. This is an environment where if the center